Hello, horror fans. This is Doug Robbins. I want to talk to you today about my true feelings about the Halloween franchise. Um, Gary Vaynerchuk, is somebody that says, "What are you passionate about?" Start a side hustle around that. Whether it's making YouTube videos, whether it's posting articles or blogs somewhere. Like, what are you thinking about in your off time? What are you thinking about? You know, when you're not working? Because he's like, if you're happy where you are, whether you make 50K, 100K, or, whether you make peanuts. If you're happy, cool. But if you're not happy, you should be devoting some time to that side hustle where you are talking about the things you love. And I love writing, I love reading, I love watching spooky movies, and my favorite horror franchise of all time is Halloween. Uh, so again, I was watching a video on YouTube about Dave McRae. Um, he's a YouTuber. He talks about Halloween all the time, and he basically asked, what is your official Michael Myers story? Like your whole through line. What is the complete story of Michael Myers? Um, that's a really good question. And in short, I would venture to say that there really isn't one because let's start out with my history of the Halloween franchise. I was 10 years old, went to the drive in. My mom, my brother, aunt, and uncle, and I think a cousin or two. And we watched Halloween H2O. And it was like, it's one of those movies that I'm like, I feel like is a better third act than the rest of the movie, but it, made me a Halloween fan because it was like, holy shit, here's this awesome dude named Michael Myers. Um, a lot of people were bothered by the brother and sister storyline. I never was because, dude, I have plenty of uncles. You know what I'm saying? And I have plenty of aunts. And none of my fucking uncles are as badass as having fucking Michael Myers. And they're like, "What he's just going after his sister." I'm like, if he was just stalking his sister and let everybody live, anybody that gets in Michael Myers' way, he's stabbing in the face on Halloween. So it's like, it's more people saying dumb shit that's more the reputation of how the movie is than how the movie actually is. Like when people say, well, the slutty girl dies in slasher movies. And it's like, where's the slutty girl? Because you could watch a standard movie, you can watch a fucking standard soap opera that's like smuttier than a slasher movie. You know what I mean? Because like the girl you're calling the slutty girl, it's with her boyfriend, and that's it. Now, there are a few slasher movies that are not good slasher movies that are, the shit that kind of led to the oversaturation of slasher movies in the 80s, like the bad dumb shit, like Sleepaway Camp 2. Yeah, Allie was a tramp. Whoop de fucking do. PJ Souls was not, I'm banging, you know, Bob on Tuesday night, and then I'm going to, you know, go fuck the guy Ben Tramer that Lori likes. It ain't happening. It's her boyfriend. High school kids hump, and if they ain't humping, they're talking about humping. They're thinking about humping. You know what I mean? And then you juxtapose that with Laurie Strode, and she is, you know, the proverbial good girl. And you know, even people make shit out of that because it's honestly a bunch of liberal movie makers, movie critics that were making fun of John Carpenter and saying, "Well, there's this, oh, the virginal girl lives." Yeah, Sean Cunningham's dumbass saw Halloween and thought that's what happened. John Carpenter and fucking self said that wasn't intentional. People in Halloween got killed. Why? Because they weren't paying attention. But people look for messages where there are no fucking messages. You know what I mean? Like that. That's what I get annoyed with more than anything in movies. Is like filmmaker has a definite message. That's there. That's cool. That's fine. That's you guys' prerogative. But when people see shit that ain't there, that annoys me. Because, like, especially when it's detrimental and you want to make a bigger case out of something or you show your own ignorance. Um, I mean, like the dumbasses that said, oh, well, Robert the Doll was based, Child's Play was based off of Robert the Doll. No, no, fucking wasn't. No, it didn't. Don Mancini and Tom Holland both said, yeah, dude, we never heard about fucking Robert the Doll until years and years later. Just like no one ever heard of fucking Robert the Doll. You know, the first place I heard him on the Travel Channel, where he was down in Key West in that museum. I was the only motherfucker that knew about or heard about Robert the Doll because I was into go shows and shit like that. But revisionist history, everybody that's ignorant likes to make up. Oh, by the way, it was based off that. Oh, no, it wasn't. Now, let's get this video back on track. I started with Halloween H2O. Why did I start with Halloween H2O? First Halloween movie. And it was in the fucking summertime. It was either June or July. I love the drive-in. And Michael Myers, he was Laurie's brother. And again, I hate stupid terms like this, but the kids online would call it nerfing. This was Halloween nerfed, and it still made me fall in love with the Halloween series and the concept of this badass in a mask that it was Halloween. He was this badass brother. My mom's fucking throwing in, you know, things like, yeah, he's autistic. And I was like, so to me, I didn't know what autism was, but I was like, whoa, this motherfucker's really badass. He got autism. He's me, okay, that's cool. Again, I was a fucked up kid, but it was like, if Michael's that, holy shit, this motherfucker's badass. Michael couldn't die until the end. He died, got his head chopped off, but it was a great way to end it. But it made me sad because I was like, oh, now I can't see Michael. So I went and watched the rest of the movies, made up my own little sequel, like wrote it on paper. Not called Halloween Resurrection, but it was basically like stapled his neck back on, like Frankenstein, and brought him back with electricity. Something really stupid. I can't remember if I wrote that down or if it was a game I was playing in my backyard. But it was something like that. And it was called Halloween 9. Um, and again, that resurrection, people shit on it all the time. All I'm going to say is it served its purpose for the time. I loved the fact that Michael Myers got to come back. Um, I got to see another Michael movie with literally Michael doing his thing. You know what I mean? Being a badass, and he killed Laurie Strode, dude. And it's like just thinking, wow, this dude spent over 20 years pursuing her. He finally did it. And not a prequel to Halloween Ends, but it's like, dude. And then End showed you, no, let's make it happy again for Laurie. Um, which again is fine. But like, and you see Michael just, watches her fall in the bushes, climbs back up, and he, nothing, and goes after some new people. And it's like, Halloween is like a mishmash of a bunch of puzzle pieces. Like it's a weird puzzle you have to put together yourself, mixed with like a sliding door scenario. They're not congruent. Um, but there's a lot of potential in just about all of them. The only ones with no potential, um, no potential, and again, honest. Um, Halloween 3, no potential. Um, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, no potential. The remake, you basically got a better version of that in Ends. Like you got a better remake of the remake in that movie. And we'll talk more about that a little later on. But then I see the rest of them. And back in the day, I was like, you know what? I prefer Halloween 2 over Halloween 1 because as a kid, for a while, nothing happened in Halloween. And I don't know, it was one, where people like my dad and shit were always like, oh, I'm about the first one. The first one's great. But then he'd like praise something like The Godfather 2, and I would see that shit years later. I'm like, well, that shit fucking sucked dick. I don't know. And they're like, oh, this is comparable to the first one. I mean, comparable to what? Not the first Godfather I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you got a different Godfather and a different timeline and a different life, but it sure as hell, no. 2 cannot carry the first one's jock. But yeah, Halloween 2, because it had that same gritty look, the same gritty feel, but there was more action, more Michael, and it was more violent. Um, but at the time, that's what I wanted. Michael was doing his thing. Michael was a badass. That was it. Um, then you start watching, the first one, and again, the first one did eventually become my favorite in the series. Um, but then, because when I said nerfed earlier in H2O, I don't know who Carrie Tate is. I know that that's the change name, and Laurie's gone to, witness protection like trying to change, hiding from Michael. And I get why, storyline wise, but the short hair, your character, you're the second shittiest Laurie has been since Ends. And at least Ends looked more like the older Laurie of the David Gordon Green trilogy and original Laurie. But it's funny. It's this weird divide in my mind where that's the one that made you a Halloween fan, but except for the third act, I don't like or care about that movie. Kind of sucks. But the ending, if you want to kill Michael, that should be how you do it. Um, Now, I mentioned the David McRae video, and he's like, "What is your story, your through line?" And before Halloween Ends fucked it up, what happened? We were going to get that because this felt like Michael Myers from the original coming back, and he was awesome in Kills. He was awesome in 2018. And there was a little bit of heart, It was like, okay, I enjoyed the through line. The relationship between Laurie and Allison. That was nice. That was sweet. And again, I don't know. It's like Halloween Ends made a good thriller movie with Corey because you're the best part of this movie. You're the best character. Um, like it, and you hated the bully so much that it just became remake. Like you just wanted him to kill like his bitch of a mom Joan, punk ass wigger boy that said bet, uh, Jewish looking bully that looked like Discount Riverdale, Stacy the cocky black bitch, Margot, least deserving to die, but still, it is what it is. But it's like the remake. You kind of rooted for Michael because all the fucked up people in Haddonfield. But you're also sad that Corey is getting fucked with. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. So this video is not being stuck with